from a constitutional monarchy to a republic. We stand ready and prepared to facilitate this historic change, ensuring a seamless adaptation within our communities. As Justices of the Peace, our commitment to serving our communities remains steadfast. Regardless of the constitutional framework, our dedication to upholding justice and providing community support will continue unabated. This transition will not diminish our role, but rather it will reinforce our resolve to serve the people of Jamaica. Allow me to acknowledge the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs for their exemplary management of this process. The staging of multiple town halls, several stakeholder engagement sessions, and a robust public education campaign are all critical components designed to ensure that the people of Jamaica are both aware of and engaged in this process. Today's Town Hall is a vital platform for essential discussion on constitutional reform. Broadening and deepening stakeholder engagement is crucial to the success of the reform process. The Ministry has been diligently working to raise public awareness about the recommendations of the Constitutional Reform Committee, the CRC, and of the Constitution in general. This inclusive approach ensures that the voices of all Jamaicans are heard and considered. In closing, I wish to thank Minister the Honorable Marlene Malahoo Fort, KCJP MP, as we said earlier, and Permanent Secretary Wayne Robertson, JP, for the invitation to bring greetings this evening. I also extend a warm welcome to everyone present at this town hall in St. Andrew. Your participation is vital as we collectively navigate this significant journey towards becoming a republic. Together, let us ensure that our journey to becoming a republic is informed, inclusive, and reflective of the will of the Jamaican people. I wish for everyone present an informative and meaningful engagement this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Williamson, for your greetings on behalf of the Custos Rotolorum. Now, at this point, we wish to have greetings. We were to have had greetings delivered at this point by Member of Parliament Julian Robinson. Unfortunately, we have received information that he is regrettably unable to attend. And so what we are doing is getting a little closer to the meat of the matter. I'm sure most of you are here with the intention of having your views ventilated. And so what it now means is that we're at that point where we're about to receive remarks from the Honorable Marlene Malahoo Fort, King's Counsel, Justice of the Peace, and Member of Parliament. And I'd say, importantly, a Member of Parliament for rural Jamaica. I would consider that. At least parts of her constituency are in rural Jamaica. And we are here, she's the Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, and in this context, also co-chairman of the Constitutional Reform Committee. The committee has worked tirelessly. There's a very extensive report that has been produced. I have my copy here, it's all marked up, and I would recommend that every single Jamaican go to the ministry's website, download it, read it, become familiar with it, and think of how it either reflects what your own thoughts are or how you may meaningfully contribute to other recommendations or improvements to those that have been made. Please do. In fact, there's a lot of information that is out there, and unfortunately, many of us just have not had enough time, I would like to put it that way, to read the information that is available. But I hope that as these town halls continue and as we become more and more exposed to what is happening, persons will spend a little time to read it so we can speak in a much more informed way when we do about the process and how it can be better engaged. So without more, I now invite the Minister to make her remarks, after which we will move straight into the questions and answer session.
Thank you so much, my learned friend, Dr. Malcolm. My fellow Jamaicans, every great achievement is a dream before it becomes a reality. When I was given the task of leading the constitutional reform work, I began with confidence in the cause, but I confess that I was ignorant of the pitfalls and the dangers that laid ahead. But when a cause is a just cause, the obstacles become stepping stones. So here I am with my colleague, CRC member Dr. McCarthy, who's representing the church community. And after that prayer, I have no doubt that our dialogue today will be constructive and mutually beneficial. We are on the road to Republic, and we're having this conversation as we are about to celebrate another anniversary of independence. And before independence, emancipation. And I wonder, for those of you who have taken the time to be here, what do you think about when we celebrate emancipation? And what do you think about when we celebrate independence? What does it mean to you? And what it is that you would like to see done? Every year, as we mark the milestones, our nation is invited to reflect on the journey we have taken, on the goals we have achieved, and those that we have set but have not yet achieved. When we began the journey decades ago, the expectation was that we would be further along the way by now. But here we are, and we are determined to make progress on the road to independence and healthy codependence. So what it is that we're doing, and I'd like you to talk to you about. We are embarking on a phased reform of the Jamaica Independence Constitution. The focus at this juncture is to have the Constitution in a proper form, a form that reflects its supremacy. We have used the term Jamaicanizing the Constitution for that goal that we are pursuing. Currently, the Constitution, though made in Jamaica, many don't know that because you have been told otherwise, but the Constitution was in fact made in Jamaica, within the colonial context, of course, but it was cloaked with an imperial status when it was appended as a schedule to an order in council that was passed pursuant to the West Indies Act after the West Indies Federation experiment failed. And so we have the highest law in a form that is more in keeping with subordinate law. And we believe that it is important to correct that. But this is a goal that many don't fully understand, and some say that it's only the lawyers that are really excited about it. But forms matter as much as substance, and symbols matter. So that's the first goal that we're seeking to achieve. Having the Constitution of Jamaica passed by the Parliament of Jamaica and approved by the people of Jamaica. First goal. The second goal that we're seeking to achieve at this time is to change our form of government from a constitutional monarchy, which has our head of state embodied in the person of King Charles III, King of England, King of Jamaica, to a Jamaican head of state who will represent our Jamaicanness, our Jamaican identity, our Jamaican nationality, and be a symbol of unity in our nation. There are many questions that have to be answered as we pursue the change in the form of government. What will we replace the monarchy with? It's the office of president. And once we abolish the monarchy, we'll be establishing the Republic of Jamaica. What kind of president? There has been much conversation and many views have been expressed on the kind of presidency. You would know by now that the Constitutional Reform Committee that was set up to provide expert guidance and oversight during the reform work has recommended, after consultation with the people, after listening to the people, a non-executive form of president. Now, I'm aware that even among members of the audience, recommendations were made for an executive presidency. The fact that we have recommended a non-executive president doesn't mean that we didn't hear or analyze or assess the recommendations made by those who called for an executive form of presidency. We listened very carefully and we spent a lot of time deliberating on in order to gain understanding of what the people are asking for. And we began by looking on the high ideals that we heard the people said they wanted in the office of president. At the same time, we were hearing calls for direct election of the head of state. But as we assess the arguments presented, we concluded that the call was really a call that related more to the head of government that deals with the day-to-day running of government as opposed to the head of state. So the difference between the executive presidential system and the non-executive presidential system is that the state is viewed and arranged separately from government, which is elected in the democratic process. There are many countries that have an executive presidency where the president is both head of state and the head of government. Now, as we assess the concerns raised by many citizens about concentration of power in a single office and issues of accountability that Jamaicans are demanding, it became clear that at this stage, an executive presidency would not satisfy the calls. I know that we will agree to disagree with some who are maintaining that at this time in our transition, we should move directly to an executive presidency where we have a single person as the head of state and the head of government. So I don't want anyone in the audience who is a proponent for an executive presidency or the executive presidential system to go away thinking that we haven't heard you, and in particular if you have made a submission. Change, ladies and gentlemen, is not easy to manage. It's not easy to manage. And we have to balance and we have to take into account numerous factors and variables. While it is not the intention to maintain any unhealthy status quo, it would be reckless for us to risk the stability of the nation to make moves along a path at a time when we are not fully cognizant of the changes. So the recommendation is for the monarch to be replaced with a non-executive president who would be the formal head of state for the Republic of Jamaica, and in whom would be vested specific powers which do not involve the day-to-day running of government. We have looked at the process by which the president would be put in place. We have looked at the powers to be exercised. We have looked at issues of holding the office to account, among other things. Term of office, qualification to serve in order to achieve the goal of the president being a symbol of the Jamaican nationality and identity. We also have looked at other related matters. Our Constitution has perhaps one of the most sophisticated and complex reform process. That was not set by us. That was set at the time when the Constitution was made. And if we subscribe to constitutional supremacy, as the Constitution itself says, then we have to honor the process that has been set. I confess that I've been wondering whether our forefathers thought that the time would have come when we would desire to make a change and no longer have the British monarch as our head of state. Because the process to make the change is a very complex and lengthy process. But it's good in the sense that in a representative democracy as ours, the decision does not only rest with the representatives that have been elected to the Parliament. And the Parliament is the institution that is empowered to pass laws for peace, order, and the good government of Jamaica. Our Constitution has 3 types of provisions which require a different process to change them. All matters relating to the British monarch have been given the highest level of protection. The monarch is vested with the executive authority of Jamaica and is head of state of Jamaica. The monarch is also the first part of the Parliament of Jamaica and exercises a legislative role by giving assent to all pieces of legislation passed by the Parliament before they become law. That role is exercised by the monarch through the Governor General, who is a personal representative of the monarch as stipulated in the Constitution. Now, I am aware that there are many issues that we would like to see done in this process of constitutional reform. In the many consultations and engagements that we have had, the overriding issue that has been raised, whether directly or indirectly, is greater accountability in government. It is important for us to spend some time to understand and think through how we can achieve that. Very important. I know many have reacted to the recommendation about impeachment because many see a process of impeachment as perhaps the highest process and mechanism to hold elected representatives to account. It is my hope that this conversation will allow us to get a better understanding of what it is that we want. But I am asking you to bear in mind that talking about constitutional reform will not result in constitutional reform. Talking about changing the form of government and abolishing the monarchy will not achieve it without doing more. The Constitution requires the laying of a bill in the Parliament, and it sets out a very detailed process that must be honored in order to make the changes. So now that the committee has deliberated on the matters to be implemented in the first phase of the reform work, many are asking, what are the next steps? The Cabinet has given its approval for legislation to be tabled to abolish the monarchy as Jamaica's form of government, for the retention of the parliamentary cabinet system, because our research shows that this is a form of government that gives the greatest chance of stability and progress from the countries we have looked at. Some of you may take issue with it. I didn't make up the facts. We have looked at countries that have the parliamentary cabinet system, and we have looked at countries that have the executive presidential system. And the data shows that greater stability and prosperity among the people have been enjoyed in the parliamentary system. I should point out that we often think that the parliamentary system is limited to the Westminster model, and that only countries that were colonies of Britain have this system. It is not so. You don't have to take my word. If you wish to research it, you may do so yourself. Now, we are a people who are very harsh on ourselves. Sometimes it's difficult for us to appreciate the progress that we have made, because it seems as if we move from one struggle to the next. When we achieve a goal, it is as if we never pause to celebrate the achievement. The minute we have achieved it, we want something else. We have been on a long journey, and I believe we have an even longer one to take. Coming into government and having served in the places I have served, I don't need anyone to tell me that we have not been the best custodians of the powers given to us to self-govern. We have not been. Some believe that we, the people, have replaced the colonizers in terms of our treatment of we, the people. And it is something that I think about a lot. I came to political office from another branch of government. And I've seen firsthand the cases brought against agents of the state for excessives in so many ways. So be assured that I'm under no illusion about the work that is ahead of us. For myself, I am vested in a Jamaica that is owned by Jamaicans. I want to see a more accountable government, a more responsive government, a more efficient government. And that is what I have committed myself to working towards. But I know that I can't achieve it on my own. And I know that all of us who serve in government are drawn from we the people. And it is my hope that we will use this process to help us sort out what we stand for as a people. Ever so often, we get glimpses of our potential for greatness, and especially when our Jamaican athletes compete on the international stage, as many are lining up to do in the Olympics. And every time the black, green, and gold is flown in center stage, our hearts stir with a national pride. It is my hope that we can move from pockets of excellence to mainstreaming excellence as part of our culture. The work is not only for the leaders, it's for all of us. All of us must sort out what we stand for. So as we move into our conversation, I want you to bear in mind that the legislative process has to be led, and it is not led from outside of Parliament, but within the Parliament. And I can already hear my friend Jeanette Calder saying it is precisely because of that why she's going to get up and raise the issues that I know she's here to raise. So let us not be content with talking about the change that we would like to see. Let us understand that once and for all, we must move beyond the talk if we are going to have a change in the head of our state. Ladies and gentlemen, it is beyond argument that it cannot be right for us to have the symbol of our nation in a foreigner. Jerry, what you say? So all of a sudden, no, I am going to be representative of all the things that I played no part in. You become guilty by association. Ladies and gentlemen, we can't change where we are coming from. We can't even step back into this morning. So, Jerry, if the responsibility lies with the Jamaica Labour Party, perhaps, as fate would have it, it looks like, ladies and gentlemen, we're off to an intriguing start to the conversation that we will have. Bear in mind that I have come to do the best I can. And so I can only learn from the past. It won't be helpful if you're going to try to saddle me with the weight, because already I have to bear it, of those who have gone before me. Right? And I certainly want to make it better for those who will come behind me. So let us be as constructive in our conversation. Let us not just talk for talk's sake. let us look realistically at how we can pick up the pieces and go forward. Let us understand that we may want it all, but we can't have it all at once. And where we start need not be where we end. Let us focus on making progress on the things that we agree should change. So, Dr. Malcolm, I'm going to hand over to you to moderate what I sense will be an exciting exchange if what Mr. Small display showed, then we're in for an exciting time. Before I take my seat, I want to just see a show of hands from those of you who are gathered here. How many of you have read the report of the committee? Jerry, have you read it? Mr. Small? I shouldn't question you. You don't wish for us to have a dialogue? I'm asking you, you're not here for a dialogue? Mr. Small? Ladies and gentlemen, let me see a show of hands of those of you who have read the report, those of you who are present here. All right. Before I take my seat, I want to thank all of you who have taken the time to come for this conversation. So many things are happening in the city tonight. So many other things. I believe that your special interest in this subject matter has brought you here. I know that we like to talk a good talk, but it's really time for us to take the steps that will allow us and enable us to achieve the goal. Mere talk will not bring the change of abolishing the monarchy. It will not bring it. So even as we would like to see many things done, there's a context in which decisions are made and taken. At the end of the day, the voting people will have to approve the change. The voting people. The Constitution says that the changes made by Parliament would have to be approved by those who vote for members of the Parliament. If you are here and you are not among the voting people, please enumerate to participate.
Good evening again. I thank you, Minister, for your remarks. And at this point, we are at that wonderful stage of the proceedings where we get a chance to have a conversation. Now, the Minister did say a couple of things which stood out to me, quite frankly, but the one thing I think we want to do, we have about an hour and a half, give or take, and we want to ensure that we go away having used the time very well. And I'll give you one short anecdote. There's a good colleague of mine from Trinidad. Philip Nunes was his name. In fact, he was one of the co-founders of the National Alliance for Reconstruction. And I remembered him indicating that he never went to a meeting without, as long as he chaired it, without assigning an hourly rate to every member at the table and then ensuring at the end of that meeting that the value of work produced was at least the value of the hours sat there or in excess of. And I want us to, in this hour and a half that we have left, bear in mind that we want some deliverables coming out that make sense, and we do not want to simply speak for the sake of speaking. I understand that we're in a dialogue, we're in a discussion, but I think we have a real opportunity to impact the process, and I hope that we use every minute of it with that in mind. Now, one of the things that the Minister said which stood out to me was the fact that she mentioned that it's a phased process that we're in. And I think that will excite some discussion as to what phasing means and as to what else we're going to be moving towards. There are issues, of course, relating, I'm sure, to the type of presidency which have been coming up time and again. But there's one thing, Minister, that you said which had nothing to do with the the substance of the report, black, green, and gold. And I say that deliberately because we see so much yellow around and not enough gold. And I think we need to, from the points where we sit and in the offices that we have opportunity, ensure that our flag reflects the gold. Not this bastardized yellow that we see so often all around the place. So that for me was something that stood out in a very significant way, I might add, Minister. And if I were to make a recommendation from my own position now, it is that we never continue to accept anything looking yellow, but instead gold. When we speak of our flags, when we look at our uniforms, when we look at everything representing Jamaica, because we want to have fidelity to the flag that represents who we are. So at this point, there is a microphone over here, and it's deliberately put there for purposes of communication. So for persons who have questions, I'm going to invite you to this side of the room. It's to my right, to this side, so you can take the questions from there. That's the only standing microphone that is available. And I want to, at this point, invite persons to, starting whoever, I mean, it really doesn't matter, to get there and to, I see one person. The only thing I'm going to ask you is that when you come up to ask your questions, please identify yourself. Identify the organization that you represent, if you represent one. And please ensure that your questions are as pointed as they can be, and that we bear in mind the time constraints and keep as much of the conversation beyond the questions out as is possible. Thank you. So that first gentleman who is standing there, could you please identify yourself and ask your question? And indicate who you wish to have it directed to. Both Dr. McCarthy and the Minister are able to answer questions.
My name is Don Foote, retired attorney, and the leader of the Jamaica Abolitionist Movement, which is going to be 4 years next week. And I'm from Westmoreland, Darliston, Savannah, Lamar, generally overall Westmoreland. Participated in previous elections, general elections, and also in the last local government elections. Now, question to Mrs. Malahoo Fort. I have in my hand here a copy of the Gleaner, Tuesday, April 20, 2024. On it, front page, I see a good-looking picture of yourself and senior attorney at law, Hugh Small, KC. And it says, no 2025 Republic. Hugh Small calls on government to be frank. Notes window too tight to complete all processes. In the body of the article, at about 5 paragraphs down, it says the Gleaner interviewed Small, and the senior legal counsel said, quote, I think we need to be frank with the Jamaican people and tell them the truth, end of quote. I've read the article and I've not been satisfied that this question was answered. Could you tell us, since Mr. Small is a member of the committee and he's making this assertion, and I'm not satisfied with the answer here, what is the backstory behind it and what really he meant by saying be frank with the Jamaican people and tell them the truth?
Mr. Foote, You're asking me to explain what Mr. Small meant? I don't know that I'm able to do that. I think that question would be better directed at Mr. Small. But if there is a specific question that I may provide an answer to, then I'll be happy to do so. But I don't know that I can answer a question asking me what did Mr. Small mean by what he said.
All right, I won't press you on that. I'll try and find Mr. Small and ask him then. All right?
Thank you for taking the time to attend and to be here.
When I was advised of this meeting very late, and it couldn't miss me, even though I should have been back in Savannah Lamar. But I'm following what is happening.
Good to see you, Mr. Foot.
Thank you. I was in court and pertaining to constitutional matters. Need not go into that here. But another more pointed question, which I think you can answer, is that I have a copy in my hand here of Dr. Lloyd Barnett's book, The Guru on Constitutional Law. We all know. A very simple thing. The Jamaican Constitution, Basic Facts, Principles, and Questions. And at page 55, he mentions condition of service of judicial officer. And it mentions here that apart from resignation or retirement, a judge may only be removed from office for inability to discharge his or her duties or misbehavior, and only after special judicial inquiry. I have a special interest in this because presently I have matters in court, and I'm trying to get to the authorities certain things appointment of judges. No, Dr. Barnett at 58 in commenting asked a question for discussion number 2. He said, asked this question, should the appointment of judges be open to public or parliamentary discussion before confirmation? In our system, we haven't got a system of confirmation of judges. And as a practice...
Mr. Foot, I'm going to interrupt. I indicated time is of the essence.
Yes,
is your question, in short, whether the process being engaged will result in a reform of what relates to how judges, their offices are terminated? And if so, is that what you're asking the minister so she can pointedly answer?
And pointed, does the committee take a position as to the appointment of judges, and will the public participate?
Understood. The
judicial branch of government is actually set for the second phase of our reform work. There are so many questions about the court, questions about the existing system, questions about internal matters in the judicial branch. So many issues of justice that are near and dear to the people's heart. And that has to be given its own time, its own focused attention, because those are real issues. So while we are pursuing the reform in the executive and the legislative branch, we want to dedicate time to hear the people out, because matters of justice touch them in a way that is life and death, literally and metaphorically speaking.
And Mr. Foot, sorry, unfortunately, there's a line behind you, and we simply have to give them...
So we don't reach there yet. You'll hear from me further then.
We might hear from you at the end if we have the time, but we'll allow the others to speak.
Good evening, Minister. Good evening, panelists and Jamaican fellow citizens. My question is about the... Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Martin Neal. I am a consular officer at a foreign mission here in Jamaica. But I'm a citizen of Jamaica. So I am particularly interested in the system of government and the presidential system. And I would like to know what are the difficulties as it relates to selecting a semi-presidential system instead of a ceremonial one, where you would have a president who is ceremonial, like in Trinidad and Tobago and Barbados and former colonies of the UK, And why not choose one that's more semi-presidential, like in France or perhaps Germany, where the president has more executive power?
Is it correct to say your short answer is why default to the
Yes.
to the form of government, to the form of for the president that is being selected instead of one of having an executive president? That's your short question?
Yeah, the difficulties
Thank you,
of that.
Minister.
The recommendation enjoys widespread support and support of the two political parties where the change actually has to begin. But there are also people who are calling for the executive president. Our view is that where we start need not be where we end. We are not currently familiar with the full extent of a presidential system. People think that it begins and ends with the executive president. That is not what our research shows, and that is not what shows up in other countries. So again, it's about managing change. What we want to do is to move away from having a foreign monarch as our head of state. The possibilities are many, but if we don't achieve that goal, we may never know what else we can achieve.
Thank you. And there's another, please identify yourselves. And again, please keep the questions as short as possible.
Yes, sir. Hello, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we are.
Okay, my name is Dawn Marie Roper. I am a proud Jamaican citizen and a lifelong human rights social justice promoter. That's what I'm going to say for the moment. But I'm really excited, I'm really glad that I came out this evening, because I have been kind of a bit of a skeptic about how we run things in Jamaica, and I've never understood why is it that we call ourselves independent. And when Madam Minister explained that we actually depend on the King through the Governor General to sign off on our laws, I was even more shocked. I didn't really understand that. And so I am really, really excited about this process that we're doing. What we're doing, the road to republic, I call for it now. And I support everything that she has proposed. Let's see now, just a short question though. If there's a change of government, will this continue? Will you still be pursuing this? Because as the gentleman had said, I recognize that you're from the current party, but I would not like to see this stop if the election comes and there's a change of party. And the other part to that question is, when will we become truly independent? So, yeah.
I can only express a hope that the constitutional reform work will continue, but I can't say for sure what another government charged with the responsibility to lead will do. All I say is that, as far as I know, both parties are agreed that the change should be made by abolishing the monarchy as our form of government and establishing the Republic of Jamaica. So it is my hope that the work will continue regardless. It's way too important to stop.
I agree.
And if we don't get it done now, I don't know how we are going to succeed in igniting the nation around this important change. The presence of the British Crown in Jamaica is linked with the unfortunate history, colonial history and the slave trade.
Yeah.
You know, we may not be able to make all the changes at once, but the direction in which we're going is the right direction.
I agree.
Even if we are not all agreed on where we must end, but it is the right path, I believe, that we're taking.
I support it.
Okay, thanks. And one, please.
Good night, everyone. Good night, everyone. My name is Mark Cameron. I am a member of the Up Jamaica movement. It's a non-for-profit that deals with the upliftment of our people beyond the political realm. I made a presentation before the Constitutional Reform Committee several months ago. And it seems as if we're living in a parallel universe, because as the minister said, that they have brought recommendations to be tabled before the Parliament. Now, I can share with you the videos and the research that we have done, and other interested partners like NDM, Unity Alliance, and others who think differently. Why is it that the colonial political entities think the same way, and we, in the public domain, have a different view of the kind of republic that we want? Now, one of the things that we mentioned was that one of the things that guides us is the public inclusion in the process. We believe that a directly elected president is the way to go. The ceremonial president is foolishness. It's another layer of an already burdened bureaucracy. We have 14 parishes in Jamaica, and we have 248 parish councillors. I'd rather have more of my pothole fixed than less parish councillors. There's 62 MPs. It's costing us about $2 billion a year to maintain this bureaucracy that has not worked for us. You mentioned your concern about stability. The Jamaican government has been unstable for a while. And another thing is that, and I'm talking about successive governance, the JLP and PMP represent only 35% of the Jamaican population. Most Jamaicans don't vote because they fundamentally believe that it's a duopoly. If you vote for JLP, they take turns switching from back and forth, and nothing changes. What I'm saying to you is that I can share with you videos of our research, not the government research, because you appoint people. We believe in that people should be voted in. We can't afford no ceremonial president, Ms. Marlene. We need more. We need more accountability with consequences. Because if a man's accountable and don't go to prison, that's not accountability with consequences. People need to know that their behavior is going to attract consequences to prevent that behavior from moving forward. I have one question. Why is it that your research by your people are so different in contrast to the work that we've been doing? And if you were to take a chance, and I don't think you will do it, if there was a poll in this audience today about who wants a ceremonial president or a president, you will have everybody hands up for a president. Nobody wants no ceremonial president, ma'am. And we spoke about it before, and we are adamant. We're going to fight this all the way to the end. Thank you.
So, Mark, if I may, you made your presentation, and even the points you have just raised mix a number of things. So the form of local government is not connected in the way that you have put it to the form of president. I share concern about whether local government as currently exists is working well. There is nothing which says that directly electing a president is going to result in greater accountability. You directly elect your members of parliament, and people are still asking for greater accountability. I am on the same page with you that accountability in government and accountability in the society is something that we will have to spend a lot of time looking on. But make no mistake, it doesn't follow that it is going to come just because you directly elect someone. We hope that that would make it happen, but that has not been the experience. So let us work together to find the kind of accountability that will yield the result that we all want, those of us who are prepared to publicly say so that we want. We are not where we were in terms of the mechanisms in place, but the systems still rely on information. It's a real knotted up system that we have, And I don't want you to think that because I sit where I sit, that I am separated from the people. I came to government I risk what I'm risking to help to make a better government. I know that I can't do it on my own. And it is my hope that all of us who are truly committed to better will do our part. Now, a bit of the work that we have to do is to find out exactly what that part can be. And I can tell you that not participating in the process is not going to make it happen. Because a democracy is no less a democracy if little people participate. Because some will tell you that if you're given the choice and you choose not to, that is a choice in itself. So we can continue to complain about what the data shows, that those who turn out to the polls are less than those who are registered to vote. But that's a choice people make. And that is part of the democratic process, as comfortable as we are, that we have to contend with. And we have to find what it takes to make it better. So, my brother, you and I share the common goal of wanting a more accountable system. But we are perhaps divided in thinking that directly electing a president without more is going to yield the kind of accountability that is desired.
Well, in our world, we believe that representation of the people come first. Representatives are secondary.
Do you know how many people share a view, and when they come, one of the things that I find most puzzling is how we call all the time for new blood in the system, you know, thinking that new people can come in. Many times we sit on the outside and we think, if only I were there, I would do a better job. And cycle after cycle,
yeah, but you see
the same thing. So what we are trying to do is to get an understanding of what is required to make the kind of change that will bring the results that we desire.
Well, the kind of results you'd get is when you stop monetizing government.
When we stop?
Monetizing government.
What do you mean by that?
People are making money out of government, and that's not the real way it's supposed to be. We're supposed to go in there and to serve. Most people go into government. We've had some issues trying to find viable candidates because we're not going to have anybody to join what GLP and PNP has been doing.
Right.
So we have that challenge, and the system has to change where there's equal access to the population.
But you know that the electoral laws have been modernized. They may not be where they need to be, but there were some amendments in 2015 which makes it the likelihood of third parties coming into government greater than what has happened in the past. Nobody's saying that it's perfect or it has reached the solution, but it is progress. I don't know if you have looked at the 2015 amendments to the Representation of the People's Act. If you haven't, spend some time and look at it. So,
well, one of the things I'm concerned about is that there's too much power in the 30% that are ruling our country. For instance, who gave you the authority to give yourself a raise?
Who gave?
Who gave the government authority to give themselves a raise? I led a protest down at the finance ministry with my coffin that says death to the police, death to this and whatever. And I broke my suspension in my truck. It cost me $180,000.
It's always
because of potholes not being fixed. I want less potholes.
Yeah, man.
More potholes fixed and less government.
We were made a promise that Jamaica would be pothole-free by 2003. We underestimate the disability that we have faced for the many decades of mismanagement of the economy. Because it doesn't matter what you say and how you scoff at it. It does take resources to address the issues. And for many, many decades in this country, the public sector has been a place of safe work for people where they collect a pay and then they work full-time hustling a living. And government's capacity to serve the people has been so impaired. And those are the things that we have to talk about.
And at this point, I will exercise my moderator's discretion to keep us along the track of the Constitutional Reform Committee's report.
Mr. Moderator, it's the same thing that happened every time we meet with the people.
Minister, you can't take away my discretion.
No, I can't take away your discretion, but I'm using the opportunity to tell you that we come to tell you that the process involves and requires a certain discipline.
Indeed, Minister.
But the people want to
that
talk what they want to talk.
I like when you're sitting down, you know. Thank you very much. Now, at this point, there's another question there. And remember, we're talking about an important matter of constitutional reform. There are a myriad of things that we need to talk about and that we need to address. I just use my discretion relating to the minister, and I'm going to use it more generally as I deem it appropriate. Now, what I'm going to ask is that we keep it along that track, not because we are minimizing the importance of other things, but because we have limited time. Yes, so please.
Yeah, good night. My name is Heru Aishaka Musa Menelek, and I represent the Marcus Garvey People's Political Party. In the minister's presentation, I am wondering if I heard right, that the answers cannot be found outside of Parliament. The answers cannot be found outside of Parliament. In my head here now, I am saying it's a democratic process. We are under a democratic system now. And under democracy, it is power of the people, for the people, by the people. So the people must be involved, because it is the people who had gone at election time to put you, the politicians, in office. You are our representative. You're supposed to represent the voice of the people. An important matter as going towards becoming a republic. The people must be involved, intimately involved in the process, because you are representatives of the will of the people. So my question is, why are you suggesting that the answers lie in the 63 persons in Parliament?
Accuracy matters. I don't think you heard correctly, because that is not what I said. I said the process of passing law is in the Parliament. I never said that the answer lies in the Parliament, not at all. I said the changes that we desire to make will not happen by us just talking about it. So it's really important that you go away hearing correctly what I've said. You and I don't disagree that the voice of the people matters, because the change that we are seeking to make have to be approved by the voting people. That is the process that is set down in the supreme law. We can't, in one breath, say that we honor the law and then we are prepared to dishonor it. We are trying to make changes that we all can agree on. And all doesn't mean it's going to be 100%, that the majority of us will agree on, because we all have different views. But we can also coalesce around some things. So please go away, not with a misunderstanding. At no time did I say the solution only lies in the Parliament.
Thank you for that clarification.
Before you continue, I know there's an intervention that Dr. McCarthy wishes to make before your next question. Yes? Yes, I think it may be.
Yes. Oh. What I'm saying that there is the whole, we recognize, let me put it that way, recognize the importance of the participation of the nation. And that is why we are having these public engagements. We have opened up where groups, individuals, can actually come and make presentation. The report that has been out, people are being asked to read it and also make suggestions and comments because it's still a work in progress. So tonight, you being here, it means that your voice is being heard. And we are asking you for your suggestions in going forward.
Thank you. Thank you for that expansion. My follow-up would only be, why is it not put to a referendum that the people can have an ultimate part of the decision-making?
Remind me of your name, my brother.
Peru Aishaka Musa Menelek.
No, man, you have to say it slow so I can repeat it. Peru Aishaka.
Aishaka Musa.
Aishaka Musa.
A Yoruba high priest.
All right. High priest, hear this now. The matter will go to a referendum because the change will require the approval of the people. After the law is passed in the parliament by the representatives of the people, it will have to be approved by the people. The Constitution sets out the matters that must get the approval of the people before the change can be made. And the two things that we are pursuing now, to repeal the imperial instrument, the Order in Council, and have our Constitution put in proper form, that's going to require the approval of the people. Abolishing the monarchy as our form of government will require the approval of the people, but that approval comes at the end of the process. So what we are doing at the start is to ensure that what we are putting in is also informed by the views of the people. But passing laws is done in stages and in phases. All right, so we decide on the policy, we decide on the goals that we're seeking to achieve, we look at the views and we hear the people, we take those into account, and then we have to write that into a policy that will inform the bill. The bill is the law in making. Then we have to go through a process, detailed process. We table it in the parliament in respect of matters relating to the monarchy. We can't just table it and pass it same time. When we table it, 3 months have to pass before we even start debating it. The intention is that when the bill is finalized and goes into Parliament, we will have conversations through a joint select committee of the Parliament on the actual content of the bill. All right? And then, because right now we are talking about many things, not everything that we're talking about will go in the bill, important as they are. They may go in other bills, they may be addressed in other ways. And then after that, we debate the bill. And after we debate it, we still can't pass it right away. Another 3 months have to pass. So it gives us time to think about what we hear from the people, the matters that have been said in the debate. Unfortunately, we have a reputation for talking about everything when laws are being passed except what is contained in the bill. We will have to find the discipline to discuss the bill, because until we achieve that discipline, we miss the opportunity to make sure that the process of debating and passing laws truly benefit from the input on the provisions. So everybody come and they talk about everything. And it has nothing to do with what is before the Parliament. And then now we pass it to there, it has to go to the Senate. And the Senate is given a month within which to pass it. And it says that if they don't pass it in that time, it's going to be deemed rejected and it comes back to the House. And the House can pass it again. And then after that, no less than 2 months, no greater than 6 months, we have to organize a referendum. We have never had one in independent Jamaica. And can I tell you how excited I am? I'm looking forward to it. So, when you go away from here, I want you to go away with the knowledge that the change that we are pursuing will have to be approved by the voting people in the referendum. So there will be a referendum. Enumerate to participate, my brother.
Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Madam Minister, and other members of the CRC. Ladies and gentlemen, my fellow Jamaicans, I'm Peter Townsend, and I represent the National Democratic Movement. I would just want to find out, Madam Minister, first of all, just one observation, then a couple of questions. It seems to me that despite the fact that you have said that you have consulted the people and you have heard the people, the committee seems to have made up its mind about the model of republic that they want to put to us in that referendum. It seemed to have ignored what seemed to be the popular sentiment out there. For example, you're advocating for a ceremonial presidency as against an executive presidency. And the committee seemed hell-bent on moving forward with that as what the people will vote to rubber stamp. But I get the feel that you have ignored, for example, the RJR Gleaner Communications poll conducted by reputable pollster Don Anderson, which shows that 79% of the population are in favor of a directly elected head of state, voted on by the people, not the continued cycle of appointees as the ceremonial type will do. It seems as if what is being proposed is just a replacement of King Charles, but everything else will remain the same Westminster model, the same appointed senators, the same appointed ceremonial head of state, which I don't see how that helps transparency, which you advocate for, Madam Minister. My question is, how will the question be coached in the referendum? Will the people be given a choice of voting to have an executive head of state as against a ceremonial head of state? Will the people be given that opportunity?
Mr. Townsend, I want to thank you for showing up. I recall that you and your team came and made a very good presentation. My followings of the NDM, I pay attention, and I know that from Foundation, you've been calling for radical constitutional reform. The committee is not hell-bent on anything. Being hell-bent will do us no good. And believe me, we are not hell-bent. So it's also important to understand the context in which the work has been done. The provisions of the Constitution, which require the approval of the people to change, ultimately have not changed since the Constitution came into effect. Same set of provisions. Time will come when you and I are no longer on the scene, and we would hope that the work that we do will be honored by some. The government took the decision that we would honor the work of those who went before us, because we have had a lot of talk about reforming the Constitution, particularly the deeply entrenched provisions which require the approval of the people. And we haven't moved far enough. And so recommendations were made, a lot of work was done, probably even more rigorous consultations were done, but we're now operating in the age of information and communication, and we can do it a little differently and a little more easily. And the recommendations, the committee was to examine those recommendations and see whether they remain relevant for implementation, since we are talking about the same set of provisions in the Constitution, same set of provisions. So if we are abolishing the monarchy, what are we going to replace it with? As it was then, views had divided. Presentations were made, calls were made for an executive form of presidents, as calls are being made now. But at the end of the day, when all matters were considered, the recommendations emerged for a non-executive president. We are not calling it a ceremonial president because we have moved away from that. Our head of state does exercise important powers and functions. But even ceremonial matters should not be scoffed at, because ceremony has something, it marks something important. Unfortunately, we have gotten to a place where we scoff and scorn at everything. Ceremony is supposed to mark something important. So the ceremony of swearing in someone in office with the public looking on is meant to send a signal. So I'm not saying that where we begin in the Republic is where we will necessarily end. But if we do not abolish the monarchy, we will never know what we're capable of achieving. I know that those who are staunchly in support of an executive president will perhaps not yield. Some have yielded. You spoke about the poll. When we go out and we talk to people and we examine their call, it's really a call for having a say in who is the prime minister. It's not just so much about layering another layer in the bureaucracy. We don't want to bring everything into contention in a political, tribal way. There is a proper place for maintaining your state and statehood outside of the party politics. What is your simple question, sir? Because you said many things.
The simple question
it's not
is,
ignoring it, it's a diversity of view.
Will the people be given a choice on the ballot?
Oh, I see, the ballot.
To choose a directly elected president or a ceremonial president? Will we get that opportunity?
We have not determined what the question will be, but we are guided by what the Constitution says. The Constitution requires that the bill passed by Parliament be approved by the people. So the question will be in a form which is asking for approval of the bill as passed in Parliament. That's what the Constitution says. Your council, you can look at it for yourself. It doesn't make sense that we have special knowledge, trained in the law, and then we do not speak so the people know what we're dealing with. I don't set the process. The Constitution itself sets it. And you and I know as lawyers that if we do not follow the process that is set, the matter will be unconstitutional. So I don't determine what the people will be asked to approve after it's passed by the Parliament. If what goes to the Parliament and is passed by the Parliament is a non-executive presidency, that is what the people will be asked to vote to approve. At this stage, we have considered, I know you're not going to feel content because nothing short of agreeing with a perspective where it's strongly held will result in contentment. But the strength of our democracy is that different views can contend, and different views are contending respectfully.
Yes.
Well, Madam Minister, I don't think you have answered the question. You have given a good talk and you have danced around it, but
I have answered you.
I will yield to the next
No, Mr.
question.
Townsend, don't say that. You have asked me if the people will be asked to make a choice in the referendum between an executive and a non-executive president. And I said, no, the people will be asked to approve the bill that is passed by Parliament as the Constitution requires.
So we want the people
so
to
I have answered the question.
We want the people to rubber stamp a ceremonial president. That's pretty much it.
How can a rubber stamping happen if the people are given the opportunity to have their say?
Well, they can reject or accept it.
Mr. Townsend,
okay,
the
Madam
people
Minister,
put their representatives in the Parliament. Something flows from that, you know.
But, Madam Minister, if we're having a constitutional reform and we say we want to build it from the ground up and the people must be involved, why are we not having the people actually be really involved?
Mr. Townsend, what I'm going to suggest at this point...
Come on, man. You know better
what I'm going to suggest, we have 30 minutes left, sharp. We have police orders. And at this point, I'm going to say, for the remaining questions that we have, we want them to be pointed. Similarly, Minister, we are going to have to keep the responses quite short from both ends. Dr. McCarthy, let me just take the next question, or you wish to intervene in relation to that, please. Please.
Just quickly to say, I think what Mr. Townsend is saying, that we are putting forward the proposal for a ceremonial type of president. If that's what he's saying, that's not what the committee has put forward in the report. It's more a blend of a ceremonial plus executive type of activities that will be done.
So it's not as ceremonial as it would speak to the current Governor General's position, although when we had the meetings, we recognized that there are a number of executive functions that he also carries out. But we are not putting forward that we are going to be having a ceremonial type of president. That's not what we're doing, because it would resemble what we are coming from.
Okay, let's take the question and then we...
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Moderator, Malcolm, Minister, to your team and the members of the committee who are here, and those of us listening. My name is Jeanette Calder from the Jamaica Accountability Meter portal. Minister, I want to address the issue of accountability, and that's literally the word in the name of the organization. But I wanted to start off by making sure that I am clear. My understanding is that the terms of reference given to the committee was for the committee to get an appreciation of what Jamaica wanted and to reflect that as best as they could in the recommendations. So the issue of accountability, which, by the way, none of us here in the crowd, listening, or anybody on the stage could get where we are today without accountability. Whether mother, parent, pastor, grandmother, boss, I see accountability as an act of love. Yeah? You hold to account the things that matter and the people that matter. So it is with great disappointment in reading the report, Minister, that I recognized that the committee did not reflect what I think is the will of the people, to ensure that there are provisions in the Constitution where the people who hire ministers and pay their salaries, like normal people who hire and pay salaries, are in a position to remove a parliamentarian when there is underperformance or no performance, or where there is misconduct. And I say I'm disappointed because what we have had for the last maybe 15 years is bipartisan support for that. For those in the crowd, former Bruce Golding, former Prime Minister in 2011, tabled a bill to remove parliamentarians for non-performance and misconduct. The Prime Minister in 2016 committed to that. The opposition leader in 2021 tabled a bill in the House for that. And last but by no means least, the same Don Anderson poll being quoted last year recorded 88.8% of Jamaicans who believe that if an MP is not performing or is not conducting himself appropriately, he should be able to remove them from the House. Thank you. So last but by no means least, I also want to close by saying to the crowd, as I looked at the handouts, and thank you, Minister, for these, one of them talks about accountability in the office of the President. There is a proposal here to remove the President for what? Misconduct and neglect of duty. The Local Government Act, the legislature in 2016 passed a law requiring and enabling us to remove mayors for what? Misconduct and non-performance. So my question to the community is, if the political leaders are for this, if 88.8% of Jamaicans for this, and if we have mechanisms in law and we are proposing it for the President, why can't we have a provision that will see us removing parliamentarians if they are not performing and if there is misconduct?
If I were a betting woman, I would win on you.
I know you would.
Right, right. So remember, the work is being done in phases. We did consider, and the first phase is focusing on the deeply entrenched provisions for which we need the approval of the people. We considered the issue of impeachment because we listened to the people and we deliberated on it, notwithstanding that you are dissatisfied with the conclusion we arrived at. But make no mistake that we considered it. No, having made the recommendation we have made, that is certainly not the end of the matter. Because I share the concern and I understand the call for greater accountability.
Yes.
And so the process of accountability that we have recommended for the President is not something that currently exists.
Correct.
But it is taking us in the right direction.
Right.
Now, this phase of the reform is not going to deal with all of the matters because there are many matters that must be addressed.
Understood.
I do believe that having an effective accountability mechanism is something that we will have to work on and give priority to. What we have seen from impeachment is that it becomes so political that it really does not achieve the goal. Some say that it's better to have it hanging over the members of parliament than to have nothing at all. I think that what we need is something more than what is hanging over. We really have to find a proper and effective way to hold to account. So you and I are not in disagreement, and I'm going to invite you to continue to work on the issue, and we will continue to look at it.
We'll continue. Thank you, Minister.
Okay, next question. Is there another?
Akwaba, Xavier Yeselin. Greetings, everyone. I'm Haile Mikhail Kojo. I'm many things to many people, including being parliamentary caretaker for Westmoreland Eastern and author of We the People Proposed Constitution of Republic Jamaica that celebrates its 3rd anniversary tomorrow, July 26, 2024, with the publication of its 16th revision. Now, Madam Minister, you have had opportunity to listen to me and the presentations that this constitution I proposed, or we have proposed, because it's a national and international document. Now, I wrote a comparison between that document, We the People Proposed Constitution of Republic Jamaica, and the CRC's report of May 2024, and sent a copy to you through your ministry and through the CRC WhatsApp email. And I now ask, among other things, I'm going to ask 2 more questions. Do you consider it to be a fair comparison? Have you read the document, first of all?
Not yet.
Not yet. Well, I would advise everybody to get both this document, We the People Proposed Constitution, and
No, I haven't read the comparison.
So that you can...
Just to be clear, I have not read the comparison, but I have read what you submitted, and I did read the document that you presented to the committee.
But I'm just telling the people to have a balance. You need to read all these documents, and you can get a WhatsApp. Get it via WhatsApp 1-876-225-1163, or email wethepeoplerepublicja@gmail.com. We also have YouTube channel. Now, Madam Minister, I have repeatedly said at town hall meetings across Jamaica that I have been going and putting out YouTube videos. We don't need a referendum. We had one in 1961 where the people voted for us not to be in the West Indian Federation, but to be in an independent situation. Our leaders chose to have this corrupt document placed on us, which we are trying to get rid of. Now, Madam Minister, I told the CRC already, if we use the terms of reference of this corrupt document to change it, we are going to end up with another corrupt document.
I'm going to intervene for one reason. I will. Permit me a minute.
Okay.
We have a legal instrument called our Constitution.
Yes, and the legal...
Permit me.
Yes, I understand
Whether
that.
we agree with how it came to us or not, I am not prepared as moderator to hear us speaking about it as a corrupted document. So let us move beyond that to the question that you're asking.
Okay, I can understand.
May I also just suggest that for the interest that you have and the work that you have been doing, it's really important that you understand that the process does require the approval of the people to make the change. So you wouldn't be helping the cause to say that a referendum is not needed. However strongly you disagree with it, accuracy matters, and it makes no sense that we embark on a process that is going to provide false and misleading information to the public. All right?
I understand that, and I'm happy that I'm not in that category. Now, what we have said so far is that a referendum, as Mr. Townsend said, if it is to be whether we have one or the other in terms of the executive, the president, or the entire document, that would be good.
The referendum is going to ask you to make a choice between a status quo and a change. A status quo and a change. We have not gotten to formulating the question yet because we also have to look and learn from others who have attempted and have failed miserably.
All right.
Right? There's a lot to learn from others, you know. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Some people think that where we are in 2024, we must go back to a time obliterating and eliminating all that we have learned along the journey to this place. If you are telling the people that a referendum is not required, that is false and misleading information.
You're basing on the requirements of this 1962 Constitution to change it. That's it? That's what you're saying.
The short, I think the point is this.
Yeah.
There is a constitution. We are agreed on that.
Yes.
The constitution has established processes. We agree on that.
Yes.
And those processes have set out how certain things are to be done. Whether we agree with them or not, the process is established. What we're seeking to do is to make comments on the recommendations that have been made and to, in the process, also inform any changes that could be made to that or how it is that we go forward in the most meaningful manner in the best interest of Jamaica. So what I want to hear us say, and what I hear the minister saying, without her even saying more,
yes,
is that we must speak in a way which comports with what exists. The Constitution exists. We can say everything we want about it. And the minister herself, we heard her say, she is not happy with the fact that it is subordinate legislation that we are relying upon. We have heard that. But what it is, as a matter of fact, is that we have something for what it is, with all its limitations, and we have abided it, and we need to respect it.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. I already gave the solution to that problem, and I'm giving it now before I go to the next question and final question. The solution to that problem, Mr. Moderator, is to have a revolution. Just fling away that document and write a brand new one, ratified by the people of Jamaica in a national vote, based upon everybody reading the document, and we're good to go. We don't need to go down that route.
And we're probably agreed on that. Save and accept that if there's another question, I'm giving you the liberty of one other question.
The question now is, Madam Minister, how much money has been spent on and by the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs since its formation in January 2022 up to the CRC's report in May 2024? Whether you can do it now or you will get it some other time, I still would like to know. We would like to know.
All ministries are given a budget. We go through a process. We spend or not spend what is given. I am not the one who spend the ministry's money. The principal financial officer is in the office of permanent secretary. All matters relating to our expenditure can be had. We were in Parliament when we were going through the budget process. We answered. People have made requests to find out. We have answered the question. I don't know the figures off the top of my head.
Okay, no, but,
but be assured, we have nothing to hide.
Okay, but as the head of the stream, I would think you would be able to have the answer.
All of us have different roles, sir. I don't deal with the money in the ministry. You have to respect that, you know.
I understand that.
I don't deal with it. Their process and their laws.
Minister, they're
coming. For every spend.
And you're the minister.
Yeah, but I'm not the minister that deal with the money.
I know, but you
so
deal with the minister.
So don't ask the question and think, say, if I don't answer it and I don't have it to my head, something wrong with that.
I give you the option that if you don't.
Okay, what it is that we've heard that.
So thanks very much. Thanks for having us, people. Make sure you get the document.
Indeed.
Have a good evening.
Other question, please.
Good night, Minister, and my fellow Jamaicans. Now, my name is Andre, and I am not representing any group in particular. I'm just a normal Jamaican citizen. Now, it is known that young people don't vote. We know it. Young people really and truly don't show up to vote. Because the current system that we have now, the young people don't believe in it. Because it's one or the other, no accountability, and the same thing rotates over and over. Now, what is apparent to me, being a young person here tonight, is that we are not about to change the fact that we need to have elected leaders, whether it is going to be a president or it is going to be a prime minister, a directly elected leader. Now, the question I have is no different from my other colleagues have said, which would be, if it is that we, the Jamaican populace, will be allowed to vote in a referendum whether or not we have an executive president or we have a non-executive president. Now, Madam Minister, I know you mentioned tonight that we will have to disagree, but with a constitution that is being reformed for us, the people, we will not disagree tonight. We have to agree for the people that what is best is for the people to decide. And we are about to decide that we want an executive president. As it is now, hold on, as it is now, Madam Minister, the Governor General's office cost us millions of dollars, including the Prime Minister's office, millions of dollars, right? No, and my friend here is saying it's over 400 million. No, Minister, we have teachers who want increase. We have police officers who want increase. We have roads. I know the Spark program is coming. Who needs to be fixed? Because my front end tired for change now, right? Minister, no, it is unconscionable to push to the people that we ought to keep a non-executive president, right, while so many other issues need to be addressed, Minister. Now, as I mentioned before, I know yes, we'll have to agree to disagree, but with a constitution that will govern me in the future, we will not disagree, Minister. And that's it from me.
What's his name? What's your name?
My name is Andre.
Andre?
Yes.
Thank you so much for showing up and expressing your view. You know, for as vehement as you are and expressive as you are, there are others who have done so in greater numbers than those who are present here. Mm-hmm. So I don't want you to think that because you may say it so strongly, that that is the only view that is on the table that is contending.
But my question to you, though, Minister, since you mentioned that, will the people in a referendum get the option to vote whether we have an executive president or a non-executive? I know what you're going to say is probably that you don't formulate it yet, but as the minister in charge of that proceeding, I am asking you, will you propose to your committee that that question be put to the referendum?
No, I will not make that proposal because that is not how the process works. And it makes no sense that we stay strong and wrong because we want something, and if we don't get it, we're going to be strong and wrong. Part of this process is to help to understand the means by which we achieve the goal. All right? So I hear, hold on, I hear that some Jamaicans are saying that we should have an executive president.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So we have an executive presidential system. Some people are saying, even if we keep what we keep, we want to vote directly for the president. There are so many views that have been expressed on the matter. Do you know what else comes with an executive presidential system? Do you vote for your member of parliament?
Yes, I do.
All right.
However, Minister,
all right, tell me
understand.
No. Hold on. Let's reason a little, right? You've spoken about what is important to you is the increase in salary. You've cited the teachers. Even though more is desired, where we are today is the best place we have ever been with public sector wages in the history of Jamaica.
No, Minister, I'm not here to debate that, I'm not here to hear what the successes of the Andrew Hollis-led administration is. Hold on, Minister.
Andre, if we're going to, if you raise issues,
I don't want to belabor,
you tell
Minister.
me you want pothole-free roads, you want outcomes, but you also have to take time to understand the process that we must go through in order to achieve the results that we desire.
I get that, Minister.
And if you are interested in legitimacy, then you have to appreciate, whether you accept it or not, that in a constitutionally supreme country, the process by which we make the change is set by the Constitution. And we have to honor that.
No, hold on,
it
Minister.
makes no sense that we disagree and be ignorant.
Hold on, Minister.
And we disagree and come away uninformed.
Let me intervene. Let me intervene to say, I've heard you. The point you have made very strongly and very clearly, and it's a question that was asked earlier, is whether the question will be put in referendum, giving the people an option to determine the type of presidency.
Yes.
That question was put. You asked the minister pointedly whether she will make such a proposal, and she answered you to say no.
Right.
If it is the position, so the position has been, the question has been answered.
Yes.
You clearly are going away, not agreeing with the minister on that stance, and you're clearly wanting to have made for the record that the position you wish to have further ventilated or carried forward if necessary is one where any question in a referendum or in referenda, if there are multiples, that those questions include one, your position, that will give the people an option.
Yes.
And so that is properly recorded. The minister has already explained why she will not take that position. There is clear disagreement.
Yes.
But it is recorded.
I get that.
And in the interest of time, remember we said I had 30
I get that.
minutes.
But no, I wish to say one thing to Minister. This is not a question.
Yes.
Now, Minister, in your statement just now, you said we like to play wrong and strong.
I wish to leave that alone. I said I have 5 minutes, and I'm asking
But
you.
I do take it
and
offensive,
I'm saying,
Minister.
No. I've just cut your mic. I have just cut your mic. Come, next question, please.
There is nothing to take offense to. I didn't say that. I said it's important that we go away from this exchange understanding the process. It's not just about outcome.
No, Minister, we have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. It's important, because we're not picking a quarrel. We determine the stage at which the type of presidency is determined is not when you get to the referendum. It's important that you understand that. That's not when you determine it, because what is going to the people in the referendum is what has been passed in the parliament. And the people are at liberty to say whether they will approve what their duly elected representatives have passed in the parliament. That's part of the strength of the democracy. We don't have to quarrel with that. We may not always get what we want, but if we have a process that is integrous, at least we can have some faith in it. The fact that you don't get what you want don't mean that others shouldn't get what they want. It's not the only view that is on the table. Those who hold the view that an executive presidential system is where we should go at this time hold the view strongly. And from what I see, we may not be able to convince them otherwise. We may get there at some point. But the majority of the people are prepared to be guided as we make the change and we make progress. So I don't want you to go away saying something that I didn't say. I'm merely saying take time to understand the process by which the change is to be made. And if you're focusing on what goes to the people at the referendum stage, it would be to approve what the parliament has passed. It's important that that is understood.
There are two questions there are two other questions we will have time for, but before doing that, I wish to just give some announcements that I have here. There's a QR code for a survey which will be on screen at the end, and we encourage persons to scan and complete it. And there'll be physical copies as well available, which can be completed. And I'm told here that the first 30 persons to complete it will get tokens, whatever those tokens may be. I see the permanent secretary smiling, which means that he has already approved for them to be given. I also see another notice that says that refreshments will be given at the end, will be made available at the end, and so persons are invited to hang on a little bit afterwards to partake of that. And lastly, by way of notice here, is that there are copies of the Jamaican Constitution that are available for persons who wish to have personal copies. Sadly, not enough of us have even read it, seen it, or have copies of it. Copies are being made available, so please collect your copy if you do not have one at the end. Next question, please.
Just before you go, just a quick insertion. As it relates to the referendum that we're speaking about, the primary focus around that when we go to vote, it's really whether we are keeping the king or we want to have our own head of state. It's really those two things that we are determining when we go to have that referendum. So the other things are things leading up, the type of president we will have. Hopefully we will solve that before we move to that critical junction. So that's what the referendum is about. Keep the king or send him away, basically.
Yes, question, please.
Good night. My name is Odini Sibley. And I am with what she just said, to keep the king. Not because of keep the king, but I'm just looking from a point of not starting over. Right? Seeing and reading some of these pamphlets, some things that is in it is already there, so why start over? I am, as I said, I am with keeping the king, right? And some of the greatest thing that can happen will not happen if you remove the king. Some of the greatest thing will not happen. And one of the biggest questions I'm going to ask you, what success Jamaica will be gaining from removing the king?
Yes, so your question is, what is the significant value to be achieved?
No.
By removal of the king?
I said, what success?
Yes, success. What is the measure of success? Yes, Minister.
All right, so you are not the only one who has expressed a view that we should remain a monarchy. It's just testament to the multiplicity of perspectives here. You're not the only one, though in the minority. All right? So we are furthering our own goals as an independent country of changing the symbols of our nation and also of actualizing our Jamaican identity. You may not consider that an important goal, but ask yourself what place you have in the British society with the British king.
Okay. Is it that you have an intervention there, Dr. McCarthy?
Well, basically, it's just captured in a sentence. We would become truly independent, having our own head of state. Simply put.
Yes. Thanks very much. Question?
Right. I have a remark and a question. I think the remark is important to how things have been going. So I'm Christoph Simpson from Jamaica Lands. We've made submissions to different joint select committees of parliament, and we have engaged the CRC. We've been engaging CRC. We've actually hoped to be able to engage CRC further, as in make further presentations. I've identified that there's a very big disconnect between up there and down here in terms of understandings of the process. And that is a problem that Lands has expressed from a long time with how we go about consultation and how we go about the national dialogue on constitutional reform, right? Now, because we haven't had a proper consultative process and proper community-based dialogue and proper national dialogue, I mean, this is the first town hall we've had in Kingston about this, you said. Town halls should have been a more regular thing across Jamaica, meaning in the same community, you're having the town hall more than once so that whoever don't get heard can get heard the next time, and you're actually capturing the different views. Now, what the minister is talking about with the referendum, they're not going to put the question of whether to go in one direction or another, both being different from the status quo. I do understand that, but there's a reason people on the floor don't understand that, and that is we are not seeing where we can actually have an impact on the options, and then we're not seeing where whatever final option is presented to us in that referendum where we just say status quo or change, what is actually going to be in that proposal. We're not seeing where we're going to have an impact on that. One of the problems that we've had with the process so far is we understand that there's already something set out in the Constitution, right? And that for stability, you want to have continuity rather than setting a precedent of rupturing it through something else, right? We do understand that. But at the same time, we don't have to limit ourselves to what is in the Constitution, meaning we could have had a proper consultative process informing what the CRC is going to actually put in that document that it is tabled into Parliament. Instead, CRC was deliberating privately, and then we get a report at the end of it when we've been asking for a long time. You know, Lance had been asking for months. The CRC needs to put its proposals in writing so that we can respond to what the CRC is saying. And that is why that there's the impression that people have that the CRC is just putting something and then we are seeing it after. So that's why they have that impression. We understand the process. But there's a big disconnect because we want to know how are the people's views going to actually be quantified. So, separate from the final referendum on, yes, this is what we've decided, this is what we've identified as what the people want, are we going to have a final vote to say yes or no? Is this a proper understanding? We have to have discussions and probably even some other votes before that one, maybe some non-binding referendums or something, that establishes questions like that. Do we want impeachment? Do we want recall? Do we want an executive presidency, a ceremonial presidency, or a third option? Lands has a third option that we've been pushing. Do you want an elected Senate or appointed Senate? Do we want diaspora MPs or not? All of these questions have to be put to the people at some point for us to actually discuss them, come to conclusions on them, and then that has to inform what goes in the final thing that we vote on in the referendum. We have to have a more consultative process, or else what is going to happen, as even representatives from Jamaica Council of Churches have warned, is that the final referendum is going to fail because we haven't built consensus around it. A lot of people don't understand the process itself, much less what you're going to put in it.
Okay,
so the question
I did ask for something short by way of intervention. Right. We are, in fact, past the 9:30 mark, so I'm going to give you 1 minute.
All right, so I'll go to the question. I did get out all that. So the question is, how much more room is there for us to engage the CRC, and how much room will there be for us to engage the Parliament during the Joint Select Committee process? I'm really genuinely interested in that.
So 2 questions. You've asked 2 questions. It's the Minister, if she's able to, will answer. Thank you very much.
It's really one.
It's 2. It's 2 questions. It's compound. Yes. Yes. Is there an answer that you wish to have?
While Minister is coming up with some other response, in the report that was done, that was submitted, you'll see in the appendix a list of organizations and persons who made submissions, recommendations. That was also included in what was submitted. So it is not just what the committee came up with, but also other groups and individuals who gave submissions.
Minister, you have a contribution?
Every time we have an engagement like this, I go away thinking about how we do what we do. It makes no sense for us to embark on a process where those who are interested go away so dissatisfied. So I want to assure you that after every engagement, there is a reflection. And I think you are absolutely right that there is such a gap in the knowledge in the society. All that you have asked for is not that it hasn't been said, but people, so much information is thrown at people and it's not necessarily resulting in greater knowledge. Time has been taken to explain the process. How many have listened? I don't know. We use all available means to make the information available. Some don't pay attention. I know that you are paying attention because of your particular interest, and you are also taking the time to point out how it can be better done, and I appreciate that, regardless of where we differ on the outcomes, because process is as important. Even as you look around, is the same set of people that show up in many of the places. And it's not because we have not taken the time to give notice and to put out the notice in the many spaces that people visit. People have so many things that they are interested in, and they are going to give attention to what they deem a priority. So I don't know how we are going to be held to account for what people choose to pay attention to. What we have to ensure is that we put the information out and that we make ourselves available to clarify and to provide the information. That's critical. Present and vocal here are a handful of people who are advocates for an executive presidential system. If the focus is only on those who speak, the impression may be given that that is the overwhelming call. Like I say, we have taken time to understand, to try to understand what we believe the people are calling for. And change has to be managed. For those who do not have the responsibility for it, it's easy to say anything, but change has to be managed. And we cannot afford to make change at a rate that is greater than our absorptive capacity. Let's be clear about that. So it's not the end of the conversation. Even when the bill goes into the Parliament, the public will have an opportunity to respond specifically to what is being proposed. We'll have an opportunity to hear, and I hope that everyone will take the time to have their views shared with their members of Parliament so that we can hear them when the debate is taking place, so we can determine ultimately what goes to the people. But the process, built in the process, are opportunities at different stages to hear more from the people. All right? We cannot afford to just continue to talk. From the time we gain independence, we have been saying that we should take the further step to abolish the monarchy and put something else in place. And if we continue to talk and talk and talk, we may all die, as those who have gone before us have died, and the change still has not been made. Where we start in the Republic need not be where we end. As we celebrate another independence and we reflect, I believe that we must do all we can to make the change that we're seeking to make. We may not all agree, but we should strive to make progress. So I want to close by thanking all of you who have taken the time. We have the information of how you may contact the ministry. Most of you here have already been contacting us. We will continue our dialogue. After we formally close and we partake in the refreshment, we can have some other conversation. Moderator, I want to thank you so much. The very distinguished Dr. Malcolm, my very learned friend. I know it appears to have been a frustrating experience for you, but believe me, it is a learning experience for me too, because it's not very easy to have discipline in the exchanges with the public. And in turn, we too get caught up in, the long talk in our effort to answer the questions. But I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us. I know you are also committed to the cause of furthering the goals of our democracy and the goals of independence.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the minister has pretty much closed out for us. But I thank the minister, including, she takes liberties with me because she has known me too long. but having said that, seriously though, the fact is, I think we have had an engagement which could continue. There's a lot more to be discussed, and I think what is most encouraging for me is the fact that the minister has said it is a phased process, and that where we begin is not necessarily where we will end up, or even where we will land before we get to another phase of this process. So I want us to continue to follow the ministry and follow what is out there. There are some social media handles that are available on Facebook, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, for example. It is at Road to Republic, JA. You can find information there, and you can scan there. On Twitter, it is Road to Republic as well. And on email and Twitter, well, it's now X, formerly Twitter, right? By email, you can contact the ministry at constitutional reform at mlca.gov.jm. The website is roadtorepublic.mlca.gov.jm. And there's a WhatsApp number as well, and that is 876-441-9097. I have read it quickly. If you scan there, you will see it, and there are pamphlets and so on being circulated with the relevant information there as well. So it is an evening, I think, that has been very well spent, certainly for me. And for you, as I hope it has been for me, it has been a learning experience. There's a lot more that we can discuss, and I think we're all excited, interested to see how we progress as a nation, what the next steps can be, and how we can meaningfully participate. Again, thank you for having been with us, and have a good evening.